I'm George Lewis. Welcome to the Vortex Sarasota show. Sarasota has been Florida's hidden spiritual mecca for many years. Its transformative atmosphere is embraced by a circular flow of spiritual energy. The power of this vortex saturates all of Sarasota and can be noticed in subtle ways anywhere around town. Adding to this already tremendous force is the 40-acre white sandy beach of Siesta Key, made up of powdered quartz sand. Actually, a study by Harvard University's geology department found that the sand was 99% pure quartz crystal. Now this is truly important, as quartz is a power mineral. It has an energetic ability to amplify subtle energies. Quartz enhances energy by absorbing, storing, amplifying, balancing, focusing, and transmitting. Think of it, our thoughts are a form of energy, and thus quartz enhances our thinking. The application of energy is extremely beneficial to manifesting, healing, meditation, protection, and channeling. It's also beneficial to memory, as storing and retrieving information of all types uses a form of energy. It tends to harmonize and balance Sarasota's environment. Quartz minimizes negativity that's so necessary to spiritual growth, transformation, and wisdom. As it clarifies our thought processes and emotions, it increases inspiration and creativity. It also helps our concentration and retention. Quartz harmonizes as it balances our energies. All of this is helpful in our relationships. We live in a world of positive and negative, and quartz counters the dark side and protects us from negative energy. It's also said to improve mental and physical energy, stamina, and physical strength. I'm going to be bringing you a super lineup of exciting, cutting-edge authors and spiritual leaders from both our local and the international community. You can expect awesome conversations. You won't want to miss an episode, so be sure to put us on your calendar. Good evening. Welcome to the Vortex Sarasota show. I'm your host, George Lewis. I've got a superb guest tonight. This woman is going to amaze you. She's very prolific. She's written 6 or 7 books and 4 or 5 pamphlets. We have a new book called Life Lessons we'll be talking a bit about. Toni Winninger. She's a channeler, an unusual channeler, one like you probably have never seen before, I would suspect. One of the really interesting things about Toni is that her background, where she comes from. She was a Catholic and absolutely did not believe in any of the channeling and the psychic or any of those kinds of things. As a matter of fact, her job for the better part of 30 years was as a felony prosecutor in Chicago. And you know, the probing mind of a prosecutor who really has to be proven everything as far as the case they're on, that kind of a mind finally came to the reality that channeling was real, that there are other dimensions, there are more to us than what appears to be going on. Welcome, Toni. I'm just pleased you're here.
Oh, thank you for inviting me.
And you're here thanks to Tom Newman of the Sarasota Center for Light, right? You're down here.
That's correct. I'm down here to do 2 weeks worth of seminars, channeling, services.
Tell us about some of what you're doing. So we'll see if we can get some more people interested in coming by.
Okay. Well, what I'm going to do, start out both tomorrow night and the subsequent Friday night, I'm doing an open group channeling in the church. And then I'm also going to be doing private sessions for people.
Right.
That all of my material, because I'm not one of these that hide behind, I didn't say that. I record all of my sessions and give people a CD when they leave. Then I'm going to be doing a seminar on life lessons, why bad things happen to good people.
Boy, now there's a question that plagues so many people, isn't it?
Oh, it is. That's why our latest book was on that subject. Then I have a seminar that I am doing on visualizing your way to success.
second topic that's right uppermost in everybody's mind.
Right.
I'm not sure whether it's relationships or money, which comes first.
Well, it's going to be everything.
Right.
It's going to be the way that you can create for yourself. You already have the energy within you to create and to manifest. So we're going to talk about the way to visualize what you want to happen.
So in your work, are you bringing in the law of attraction, that kind of a thing, or how do you?
Somewhat the law of attraction.
Because that's such a popular thing these days.
It's a very popular thing. And to some degree, it is right on and it works perfectly.
To some degree.
The degree that comes in as the barrier is what life lessons you've set up for yourself.
So you're talking about those blocks that keep us from creating the life we want, internal blocks? Is that what you're talking about?
Right. Like if you put out that when you came down here on Earth, you wanted to experience what it was to really have to work hard for your financial benefits. And every...
How'd you know that?
who hasn't? So then, but every week or twice a week, even daily, you buy lotto tickets. And you put your entire thought process, the entire procedure that they give you in the law of attraction to win the lotto. Well, you put the energy out there, but it meets this blockade that says you have to work for your money because that's what you wanted to do.
Ah, this is your what you chose.
This is your life purpose, so it's already there.
Got it.
And that will prevent you from being able to do that. But if you learn how to work hard and to get the money, and you understand the degree of integrity that might come into it and control issues, and you learn all of those things so that you are comfortable with where you are, and whether you make more money or not doesn't make any difference. Then you want to have more for a particular purpose, and you buy a lotto ticket. There's the possibility you can manifest that.
1 out of 17 million, not bad.
Exactly.
Not bad. So I want to take us back a bit because you're so interesting. You really are an interesting lady. And I want our viewers to get an idea of your background and a little brief idea of how you came from being a prosecuting attorney in Chicago with all of the prejudice that were involved around women in those early days for you, and what happened that did you have some kind of a spiritual experience? What just flipped you? Because that's what I see is this flip out of one world into another. So maybe you can give us a little idea.
A voice.
Aha.
Now, as a prosecutor, I didn't believe in anything unless I could pick it up and show it to the trier of fact.
Right.
If somebody said they heard something, did something, it's hearsay. You can't use it. So I didn't believe in any of that. I was quite successful. I was the first chair in a courtroom, which is the one who runs the courtroom. I was within the office a specialist in cross-examining expert witnesses.
And you did all this as a woman during a time
when there were very few women in the office.
Very few women.
I had several firsts within the office.
Which tells me you're a very powerful woman.
That was all the things that I had designed for myself in this lifetime.
Right.
But there came a point where, I was successful. I didn't have a lot of money because I was a public servant, but, I had sufficient money for what I wanted to do. I went on nice vacations. And I'm walking my dog in the forest preserve one day, and I hear this voice that says, "Why do you hate yourself?"
Oh, pardon me.
And, first I looked around. I didn't see anybody hiding in the trees.
Right.
Looked at the dog. His mouth wasn't moving. So I said, okay, and I just kept walking. And I heard it again. Why do you hate yourself? Now, it wasn't just like you sitting across from me and saying, why do you hate yourself? It was a vibration that came from inside of me, outside of me, and from just everywhere.
Aha.
So instead of thinking I was crazy, which I normally would have, thought because of my background, I fell back on my other lawyer skills I began to argue with the voice.
Oh, very good. Very cool.
I mean, why not?
Well, heck yeah.
So I said, how can you say I don't love myself? Of course I love myself, Look, I've got a nice house, just got back from a nice vacation, got a great car, going to have, if I can stick it out long enough, a nice pension. And you know how when you argue with somebody and they change the question just slightly?
Yes.
And then it opens you up. Well, the question changed just slightly after going back and forth a dozen times. What don't you like about yourself?
Uh-huh.
And that was like opening the floodgates.
And that's a small point, but a huge point.
It's a huge point.
Yeah, big difference.
In that moment, it was like everything popped open, and there were things that I had wanted to do, and I had never done them. I had never gotten married, had never had kids. There were everything that I could think of that just came flooding out. And at that point, I realized there was a lot in my life that I had done, but there was even more that I had never experienced because I had been so structured in what I had done.
Almost automaton?
I don't know automaton because none of the jobs I had would allow me to be an automaton.
So you're a bit of a rebel in all of it.
Kind of, yeah.
Maybe not a full
Yeah,
rebel.
yeah. My dad used to call me a maverick.
Okay, maverick. In other words, that works. You bet.
So I then decided there's something more out there that I've got to find. So I just sort of said to the universe, although I didn't realize I was saying it to the universe at that time, what do I do now? That day I went to a health food store to get some soy milk. They put a copy of the local metaphysical magazine in my...
Accidentally dropped into your basket.
Well, they were getting rid of them because it was the end of the month and there were going to be some more coming.
Right.
So I take it and I put it out on my counter at home as I'm taking the milk out, and it pops open to an advertisement for a spiritual encounter group.
Oh, okay.
And one of the two people that was directing the spiritual encounter group was a friend of my best friend, who was somewhat of a psychic. So I called up my best friend and I said, Rosaire, let's go take this 8-week class.
Had you ever been to a psychic?
I had gone to this psychic with her once.
One time.
And that was the only contact I had with
When
anything.
you left that psychic, what happened for you in that encounter?
I didn't think that most of what he said really applied.
Right.
So I was, sort of turned off by it. I had never been to a channeler. I had never been, no tarot or anything. I used to play around. As close as I got was reading my horoscope in the paper.
I got you. And that's about valueless, right?
Right. Well, yes and no.
Yeah.
So we went, and I didn't say a word during the whole 8 weeks because everything they were saying was so new to me.
Right.
I had been raised a Catholic. I had gone to Catholic school from kindergarten through to junior year in college.
Wow.
And I had, been fed the pablum and, consumed it, knew all of the buzzwords, but didn't feel any of it.
Right.
And then when they started talking, particularly about past life regressions and how terrific it can be to solve the problems you're having in this life because of something you didn't finish in another life, I decided that I have to have a past life regression.
Absolutely.
To see what this is all about.
Absolutely.
It was just about Christmas time when the class finished. So the other facilitator, not the psychic, but the other facilitator was a hypnotherapist psychologist. So I went to him and I said, I've got to have a past life regression. And he said, okay, I'll put you on the list. So he calls me 3 days later and said somebody had canceled for the coming Saturday.
Uh-huh.
Was I interested in having it done so soon? I said, absolutely. So I went in, and not only did I visit 7 past lives, but I also spent time between lives.
Oh, that's interesting.
So that I felt what the energy of my soul was like. I felt the unconditional love.
Wow, that must have been tough to come back from.
I didn't want to come back.
Yeah.
But, of course, I had to.
Right.
So I did. And at the end of it, I said to him, I said, what do I have to do to be able to feel what I just felt anytime I want?
Great question.
So
Great question.
His response was another question.
Uh-huh. He'll figure it's a question with
Yeah.
a question.
Guess what the question was? Do you love yourself?
Oh, God.
I said, wait a minute. I think I've heard this before.
Where did this come from? Yeah.
And he said, you can only love another person or experience life to the degree that you love yourself.
Yeah. And that's a truism there.
Oh, it's a definite truth. I didn't believe it at that time.
Right.
But that's the way I live my life now.
Do you think the world suffers from a love deficiency?
Absolutely.
Oh, it's huge.
And the biggest problem is that to the world, love is romance.
Absolutely. It's
Period.
sex and romance. That's
Period.
Yeah, and it's very boxed in.
And that is maybe 1% of what love is. It is the reason that we enter these physical bodies so that we can use all of the nerves and senses of the body to experience love in a sexual way.
Right.
But it's so minute to be able to feel the connection to the universe, the unconditional love, and to be able to share that with another person.
And the joy that goes with that.
Absolutely. Goes much beyond
Oh, yeah.
anything that it can be found in romance.
Yeah. I'm convinced at this stage in my life, Toni, that my job is to do all the things I need to do to bring myself to a state of joy. And then I have something that's worth sharing, because like you just said, you can only give away what you got.
You can only give away what you understand. You can only explain to another what you've experienced yourself.
Absolutely. Absolutely, without question. So you kind of like right away, through these experiences, how long did this, was it a 30-day period, a 90-day period?
No, when I started working with Terry, it came out that I had blockages all over the place.
Yeah.
Part of them were due to my job. I built huge walls around all of my emotions. At that time, I had no emotions.
Well, you probably need to do that setting up there in events, don't you, in order to be...
Absolutely.
Yeah.
When I was dealing with a parent whose only child was brutally murdered by somebody, and I had to present the case so that it would be understood by 12 people to get my conviction.
You have to live it.
You have to live it, but you can't show that it affects you at all.
Right.
Because then the defense would get up and say, she's being overly emotional to try to get your sympathy.
Tainted the jury.
Exactly. So I had built walls around my heart and all of my emotions. A lot of them were related to things in this lifetime, because my early life wasn't exactly hunky-dory, or pleasant like people would want. And I had a lot of past lives that I hadn't completed.
You were Beaver's
things.
sister, huh?
Absolutely not.
No. And you chose that.
I chose that.
How long did it take you to accept that idea?
That I chose it? Not too long.
Yeah.
But to understand it, to correct it, to be able to move on from it, almost 18 months.
Right.
And this
So
was...
you kind of got stuck right in that space.
I just started working one thing after another, after another, after another. And when I got to the end of the 18 months, that was right when the state legislature in Illinois passed a buyout bill that I could leave the state's attorney's office with a full pension.
Isn't the universe's timing something else?
Oh, it's fantastic.
Yeah. All I have to do is realize there's timing involved with everything. How much misery could I have saved myself knowing that one? Yeah. Well, you know what? I've kept you talking here, and I want to give,
first of all, let me tell our audience that this is just a precursor. We're going to have a whole hour next Tuesday on the spiritual but not religious show. So you want to be sure and come back for that show. Tonight we just want to give you a little taste, wet your whistle a little bit so you can really appreciate what's here. Tom Newman, the pastor over to Sarasota Church of Light, has brought Toni to Sarasota, and I believe she's here for a couple weeks or a month, and doing workshops and sessions at his church. And I guarantee you, Tom's been in this world for 40 some years. When he told me about Toni, it was instant credibility, and so she just, I've interviewed a lot of psychics, I've interviewed a lot of channelers and mediums, and gosh, not all are the same, but this lady's the real deal. And I've researched you quite a bit, so I know this just isn't talk. So anyhow, be sure and come back. I want to get in a little bit to you actually talk with your guys, or your guys talk with you, and you was it talking with 20th century men that you talked
That was our
with?
first book, yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about that. And I'm interested in a couple of people. Actually, all of them, but I'll settle for a couple. Carl Jung, Adolf Hitler, and Albert Einstein.
Well, Carl Jung is what started the whole thing.
Well, see, he was one of my teachers and still is. And yeah, so I'm very interested. What did Carl tell us?
Well, I'd like to tell first how we got into this.
Please.
I never would have thought about writing books.
Right.
Now, one of the things that I had done preparatory to retiring was I became a hypnotherapist.
Did you?
Because I thought I could do a lot of help with people, past life
life.
regressions and taking care of things. I was at a hypnosis convention, and a gentleman by the name of Peter Watson Jenkins, who writes the books with me, was there. Now, I had met him because his wife was in my hypnosis class.
Gotcha.
He was several years ahead of us. He also is a hypnotherapist. There weren't many people in the exhibit room, so he came over and he said, "What's this channeling anyway?" And I said, "Well, when I clear my mind and somebody asks me a question, I just know the answer." He said, "May I try?" So he asked questions about himself, his wives, his children, his grandchildren, and didn't give me any clues whatsoever with his behavior, what was happening.
Right.
So I thought, well, nothing ventured, nothing lost, nothing gained.
Nothing gained, sure.
So he then said, I just finished a book about Carl Jung, and I'd like to ask him some questions.
Oh, wow.
Do you think I can do that? And I said, I've never done anything like that before. Ask for somebody in particular.
Right.
So I said, hold on a second. And I got my team on the line, so to speak, and said, can you go drum up the soul that was Carl Jung and ask him if he'd answer Peter's question?
Up, huh?
Yeah. Well, it's kind of the way I talk with
understand.
with my guys. So they came back almost instantaneously. He thinks it's a fabulous idea. Have Peter get his questions together, and we'll sit down and answer them.
And what was the most prominent thing he said that had the most impact for you personally?
Well, it's interesting. I'm the channel, so everything is coming through me. I hear it all, but I'm not vested in what's coming out in most cases. Because if there is something that I grab onto, that's so earth-shattering, then my mind becomes
And
engaged.
you're in it, huh?
And I'm in it.
Yeah.
So I know more about what happened with the channelings by reading the book afterwards
I understand. I hear.
than I did then. Peter, in that first book, just did fantastic research on all of the people and went and got their main theories that they were known for and asked them questions about them.
So you're able to validate this encounter.
To a certain degree.
This encounter.
Yeah, to a certain degree.
When you say to a certain degree, to satisfy your prosecutor mind?
Well, I believe in what I feel. I believe in what comes
Absolutely.
through me. So, to me, it's absolutely true. Whether it rings true to you, I don't care.
I hear. Isn't that where most of our spiritual life has to be lived anyhow, is in that feeling nature?
Absolutely. One of the things that the masters say all the time is when you want to know about your life, about who you are, never ask yourself, what do you think about something? Because when you ask, what do you think about something, that is asking your brain to repeat what's up there.
The parrot.
The parrot. And how did the information get into your head? Mostly through your ears,
Right,
partially through your eyes.
right.
Where did that come from?
Somebody
From
else.
everybody else.
Yeah,
So if you ask, what do I think about something? You're saying, okay, world, give me an opinion. But if you say, how do I feel about this? You are asking your unconscious, what has my experience been? Does this resonate with me? Does this feel right to me? And the masters constantly tell people, you ask us a question, we'll tell you as it is. If it doesn't resonate with you right now, fine. Don't pay any attention to it. Put it in a little cubby hole and come back to it later.
and at some point, it may just kind of fall in place.
It may just fall into place.
Timing is kind of important.
Mm-hmm.
I use this bellyometer here
It's the same thing.
for everything.
Those are your feelings.
Yeah, absolutely same thing. Yeah.
Your chakras are very sensitive to energies.
And it's all about energy, isn't it?
It's all energy.
Yeah, totally about energy.
The whole of existence is energy.
And how we vibrate in that, the frequency of the whole thing. What's interesting to me is we have it all around us, television and radio and all these, and trying to get them connected with, this is where a receiver and a transmitter all in one, some people just can't wrap their mind around that at all. You know what, I knew after I did 4 or 5 hours worth of research today, and I knew that this half hour was going to, when we were going to be out of time, I wasn't going to be able to come anywhere close to what I want to talk with you about. But fortunately, we have an hour next week. So we've got about 3 minutes left. Is there anything that you'd like to, share at this point? Give us some times. What's the website over there for Shrine, for the Sarasota?
So, SarasotaCenterofLight.com.
SarasotaCenterofLight.com. If you'll go there, you can find out plenty of information. If you've never been there, gosh, this would be a great time to go and meet this lovely lady who will channel some pretty powerful entities, and in a way that, if you've been to mediums and you've been to channelers before, I assure you that the experience is completely different. From my viewpoint, and I mean this sincerely, she just drops all masks and shows up in a way that's, I watched some of what you did, and you show up in a way that's very powerful and very confident, and I think that's hugely important when we're dealing with people's lives at this point.
Well, I think people have to understand that one of my lessons before I came down here, or one of my directives that I wanted to do before I came down here, was to be a spokesperson for the spirits on the other side.
Okay, so you came here, that was your job, your intended avocation?
After I finished working on my life lessons.
Right.
That's why it took me 58 years to get there.
Well, 58's not bad. Some of us take a little longer than that.
Mm-hmm.
It's like some never get it and have to come back. Well, I would ask you some questions about reincarnation. We don't have time, but we will talk about that next week. And we'll talk more about what you're doing and why you're doing it, and what your purpose here in this lifetime is, and how you're going about it. So, come back next week for Vortex Sarasota, same time right here, and next Tuesday, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I guarantee you'll have a great experience. Come back join Toni and I. We're going to have a great time. In the meantime, don't forget to accentuate the positive and have a fantastic week.